So I was just sitting in my house thinking, man, things are growing so slow this time of year. And I went ahead and I walked out to the garden to see just how fast this has grown, really. But for me, it just feels like it's taking forever, probably because it's just kind of popping up and getting established here. But I walked around inside. Now, I sowed carrots. These are the turnips that are already kind of popping up, and I made a video just 4 days ago about sowing carrots on top along with my turnips. Now the turnips are already established and they will produce roots within about 40 days, and really before that I'll start harvesting about 30 days from now. Some of the better roots and thin them out that way, eat the tops, and then do the main harvest about 40-45 days from now. But in that time, the carrots take a while to establish, so by the time all of this is harvested, the carrots should be popped up, and I shouldn't pull them out. They should be rooted well enough that they won't just pop out the ground when I'm harvesting the turnips. Now, at the same time that I sowed the carrots in here, it really does feel like an eternity, which is one of the main reasons that I started really videoing things that other people may not even really be interested in, because it really does help me keep track of the growth in my garden and kind of keeps me encouraged. But also, if I'm curious, how old are my ducks? When did I sow this? I can just look back in my videos, and it's really just kind of like a video diary of everything, my germination rates and days, the weather patterns, what I've sown where, how long ago. It really does help to kind of have that visual thing for me to be like, oh wow, this is really working, or it isn't. Now, when I sowed the carrots in with all of these, I actually went ahead and sowed collard greens, surface sowed carrots, and sowed spinach in the area where my ducks used to be. Now, this is that area. As you can see, like, it's pretty bare. They really just wiped everything out. We went through large periods of drought and then just rain piling days on days, and it really heavily affected this area. Now, the idea was always to kind of clear some of it out to be able to sprinkle seeds down. And I really thought that it would rain more. The weather said that it was supposed to rain for like a week straight. That would have kept the seedlings nice and moist, but that's not the case. So I'm going to end up having to water this. The problem is it's going to displace a lot of the seeds, and who knows where they're going to pop up. But one thing that I did notice is that, let's see, they are already popping up everywhere, especially the mustards and the collards that I sowed. And I sowed a variety that was about 40 days to produce, and you can really see the effects of that just already popping up even with the ground being dry. Now, it wasn't dry, it had just rained when I sowed everything, and I think that gave it enough moisture to really get going. Now, these plants are fast growing. They can tolerate heat, but also they do really well in the cool weather. Now, grass is starting to come back in here, which is fine by me. This area, after these plants grow, will ultimately have the ducks back in it, and those ducks will eat whatever plant material is left. They'll eat the tops on the turnips and the carrots. They will eat the grass. It's fine. I fully expect that to happen, which is really cool. So this is the area where their pond was previously, and look at that. There's just nothing to kind of hold the roots down and keeping it from drying out, which is why I sowed seeds so heavily. And you can see some of the seeds just hanging out on the top of the soil, and I know some of you probably think that I'm insane for just surface sowing and seeing what happens, but I just really wanted to kind of do an experiment and see how that would work. And honestly, overall, it's working pretty well for me. Now, this area is pretty shady. There's a huge oak tree. You touched the water. Oak tree. This is the pond kind of right over here. And then, so this is not getting a ton of sunlight, but look at this. Like, this is where some of the plants are actually the most established plants popping up. And I'm not really entirely sure if this is the collards or the mustards. Both of these are varieties I don't have a ton of experience with, but I am curious to see how well they do. I did not expect to have so much growth over here, but it's probably because the water is not evaporating as quickly because it's not in the sun, it's in the shade of the pond. Plus, if the kids or anyone comes over here splashing around the pond, then it really does kind of drop water into this area, keeping it nice and damp and cool enough for these plants to germinate. Can I pick up the water? So I'm trying not to step on too many of these plants. There are still seeds, like I see this spinach seeds. Some of them are actually starting to pop out. I can see the green forming from them, which I'm really surprised because it takes 7 to 14 days for these to germinate, guys. So for them to just be popping up so rapidly is amazing. It really has felt like it's been weeks and weeks and weeks, but it's been 4 days. So I guess time is just kind of dragging on because there's not a ton to do out in the garden. Things aren't growing as fast. I haven't even had to worry about the grass really. We haven't mowed it in over 6 weeks. It's not growing, whereas before you could grow it and 3 to 4 days later it looks like it needs to be mowed again. That's not the case. Everything is growing much more slowly here.
Like me?
So Sam and I are kind of standing by the pond, and what you're seeing
Mom, don't drop
moving.
Your phone in there.
Yeah, I hope I don't drop my phone in here. That would be something that I would definitely do. What you're seeing is the fish moving around, and for a while we didn't even know if fish were still in here. We just kind of neglected it because we thought that maybe some of the fish didn't make it or had disappeared. The water gets pretty cloudy during the summer. Now, the idea is to bring plants in here, everything else, and make it into a real nice pond. I know, 7 fish. Oh yeah, because some of the fish are actually, I see that one right there. I don't know if anyone can see it on video, but it's actually black and orange at the bottom of the pond. It really blends in with the surroundings. And then I see, oh, there are 2 black and orange ones. And their fins look different than the other goldfish, which is interesting. There are 2 orange and white ones and 3 orange ones. Now, these were just like, what, how do you remember how much they were? 25 cents, maybe? Comments?
They're so cute.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't believe they've gotten so big so quickly.
They can nibble me.
So this is really cool. I'm really excited. The whole idea was to put some feeder fish in here inexpensively and kind of establish a habitat. And it was ultimately supposed to be a duck pond where the ducks ate the feeder fish. Well, the ducks really didn't have interest in all of the fish we got. So some of them actually became established fish in this pond. And the ducks seemed to really just prefer the kiddie pool over this larger source of water, which is strange. I would have thought it to be different. So the idea is that we're going to go ahead and add a bunch of plants and really dress this up to be a nice, pretty area to kind of sit and hang by, and a real feature for the duck coop.
Can you clean out the algae?
Can I clean out the algae? I'm gonna leave it for now.
Or can you get some fish that eat algae?
These fish do eat algae. I've seen them eat mosquito larvae and other things that fall on the surface, other insects. So I actually haven't fed them at all. They've just been eating what falls on the surface and the algae from the sides of the pond. Now, of course, me not having to feed them may change now that winter's coming. Luckily, these are a pretty cold hardy fish, and it really doesn't get that cold here. When you think about it, this pond is over 3,000 gallons, which is a pretty good amount. It was just a pond that was given to my husband, and we didn't have to really do anything. Originally, we wanted it to be a swim area for the kids, but in the Texas heat, we learned really quickly that we just can't keep up with the algae growth. We're not prepared to take care of a pool in that sense.
We need more algae-eating fish.
Yeah, we need a lot. We also need a lot of plants to put some oxygen back in the water. Now, we do have this over here, and it does, like, provide some filtration, and it also aerates the water, but there's also wind movement and everything else. All of that's really important. So we're definitely going to add some fish. I mean, not just fish, but some more plants and everything else.
Turtle.
A tiny turtle? Would a tiny turtle eat the fish? I'm really not sure how that would work. Maybe that's something we should look into. I do see turtles
Really
coming around here randomly.
I saw a turtle.
Yeah. So that's really it. I am going to come through and lightly water this. I know that it'll displace the seeds. And so that's kind of a negative, especially with there being carrot seeds sown.
Look at that.
What is it? What? That's a corn cob. Sometimes we feed the ducks treats. And
Can I
a corn
pick
cob
that
just
up?
happened.
Can I
Yes,
pick
it
it
won't
up?
hurt you. Yeah, it's just an old corn cob. So I did notice that there's not a lot really popping up in this area, which is primarily carrots. You can kind of see the random seeds everywhere. Oh, look, I spoke too soon. There's some kind of popping up, aren't there? Look at that. Some other plants. So that's pretty exciting. I did plant some peas in here, and looks like those are kind of popping up right in here too, to kind of grow up this trellising area so it's not bare. And
There's
yeah,
tiny anties.
yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. So things are popping up. This'll, look at that one. It's really getting going, coming out. Now, I'm pretty excited to see how it progresses, because I just was like, man, forget it. I'm just going to surface sow all of these seeds while it's damp. Now, that didn't go to plan because, of course, it didn't continue to rain like it should have. But I'm going to just water these guys. I am going to water them lightly and really see where it goes and how these plants grow. And if they're not something that we end up wanting to eat, I'm just going to put the ducks back in here. And it's going to work out really well, because it's going to provide them with grass, all the collards, the tops of the carrots, the turnips, just everything. The mustard, it's really fast growing. They really enjoy eating them. I think it'll be a really cool source of fodder and feed for them throughout the winter. Sam's just asking why there's still grass here, and that's because with the ducks not being here, the grass is very quickly able to reestablish itself, which is kind of why I rotate them between the two sections of their pen. This one being 400 square feet and the other one being 900. And of course now we only have 8 ducks. That makes a big difference. So I'm pretty excited to see where this goes. I will continue to post updates and posts, but with the mild climate here and things always growing throughout the winter, especially root crops and brassicas, even during heavy frost, they don't tend to die. They may get some frost damage, but that's about the extent of it. So this is going to just be really great, not just for us, but just for the ducks to eat over the winter. I think it's really cool.